Okay, we'll get our meeting started. I'm sorry we're late. Hopefully you got a chance to talk to some of your neighbors and get to know each other. We have invited Patrick Leary here with the county. He was here this morning in this morning's meeting. I'd like to just get started with Patrick so he doesn't have to wait any longer. Jack, if you want to start the slides, if you want to just skip down, and we'll go back to the minutes and the budget after. Skip down to general topics. And he's just under. He was going to talk about two items. The FCOS of Rose Canyon Road. We did discuss the Area B water tank this morning. If anybody missed that or has more questions, any questions on that, why don't we talk about that at the end of the meeting? I can kind of update you on what went on. So, Patrick?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me out again, Arlene and the board. It's always a pleasure to come out here. I actually thought we would be the sheriff at this morning's meeting, but turns out not to be the case. Arlene wanted me to just give you a quick update on where the Foothills and Canyons Overlay Ordinance rewrite is. And as you remember last year, we had a panel of citizens who were advising us on making some changes to that. That report is online at the county, on our website of the county if you're interested. That report sort of gave us the broad parameters we need to do to rewrite the ordinance. And now the planning staff, along with the lawyers from the district attorney's office, have started that rewriting process. Part of that is a structural reorganization of the ordinance, so as to make it logical and reasonable and readable. Part of it is also substantive. So we will keep you in the loop as drafts of that ordinance progress so that you can weigh in on them. The question is, did the committee recommend any changes that would allow for more building or more development? The answer to the question is, well, it's a two-part. Let me answer one I answered this morning. It did not remove this area from the ordinance. There were some people who asked us to take a look at whether or not it warranted being removed from the ordinance, and the committee did not think it did. So. But there are changes to the ordinance, and I can't answer whether it will allow more building or not. It certainly is based on a case-by-case basis on what you want to build on that property. So, FCOS, yes, FCOS is still enforced, and it will be enforced going forward. Are there any other questions on the Foothills Canyons ordinance? I know it's in many ways a frustration to many of you. I'm sorry for that frustration. It was intended when it was written to protect the foothills and canyons, and that's what it is. So, yes, sir.
Do I have any leeway? I'd like to put a fence up around the perimeter of my property. Got with the ACC, and they're good with it. But the FCOS is saying I can't go any higher than 42 inches high into my top rail. It's a wood pole fence called a crossbar fence, so it's not going to race into the water. It's just that height issue. 42 inches is too low for horses, in my opinion, and we'd like to go at least another 10 inches to a foot above that.
Okay. And so, our folks are saying, no, you got to stick to the 42 inches size fence.
Yeah, height, total height.
Right, on the height. I'm not sure how to address that question. So, maybe Mike, I'll come find you before I leave today, and we can have that back afterwards.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Question about the Jetsco development, right by the mailboxes. If they're supposed to be putting in 61 new homes with 3-car garages, which is 183 more cars. We had a hard time evacuating from both fires. How does High Country 2, the new Jetsco development, Hamilton Farms, the Cove, how does everybody evacuate in a brush fire on a 2-lane road?
It's a very good question. I'm not familiar with the development you're talking about. It's in Harriman, okay. It's a great question, and one I will talk to our Unified Fire Department about, and I'll talk to our colleagues over in Harriman. So that they're making decisions, it sounds like, that are putting pressure on the roadway that's going to compound matters, not make it easier. So
The Harriman Planning Commission just had a meeting on Thursday night, at which I assume the developer assumed that it was going to be approved. They put it back until the 19th, at which time they'll put it in. But there's no way, given the last fire, 2 police cars collided on the eastbound lane, completely blocking it. Another police car with a horse trailer. The policeman was out of his car screaming at the guy with the horse trailer. We got to the intersection at 6400 and it was a very hot day. The police car just up and quit, slid at a 45-degree angle and blocked the entire intersection. You've got several thousand people out here with no way to get away from a fire. If the gate to High 1 is closed, and I'm assuming that's at High 1's purview, it's their decision whether it's open or not, we all roast.
it's a great observation, and so what she was mentioning is in the event of a fire, how you evacuate, especially with the additional development and developmental pressures around the roadway that Harriman's putting on it. So I will get a hold of our friends in Harriman and let them know our concerns. Thank you for bringing it to mind.
I was concerned about the possibility of what the impact would be if we ever did incorporate into Harriman City, and someone said that would impact the HCEII regulations if we were ever incorporated. What would that do for that?
That's a great question. Sometimes what those promises are from those neighboring cities don't always come to fruition. So if someone's telling you that Harriman will get rid of FCAUS, I would take that with a couple grains of salt. They would certainly be within their right to revisit that, but I was telling another gentleman earlier, oftentimes when areas are annexed or cities have incorporated, oftentimes they actually take over that local ordinance with them. So I will be in discussions with Harriman about what that might look like, though. So, any other comments, questions, anything else you want me to go to bat for you with Harriman City? I'm ready to go pick some fights for you. Okay, quickly then, the issue of Rose Canyon Road is already brought up. Last year I told you we had an engineering study done. We have not started any of those engineering improvements yet, but I will let you know when those will begin. We have to talk to Arlene, I think, and the water people about a couple pipes. But speed along the roadway was raised again with me today. We will get a speed trailer out here very quickly, so that at the very least, it'll have something that says you're going too fast. And I will also ask our friends at UPD to sometimes come out and write a couple tickets. So usually what they tell me is that it's going to be you and your neighbors who get the first tickets, but if you're willing, we'll get them out here. So.
Jack, could you flip past there a couple slides? You can see why people are concerned. The kids walking home from school, and there's really no shoulder or anything.
Because the bus drops these kids off at the north end of the canyon, and all of them have to walk home the whole length.
Bicycling and of course horses out here are big. Bicycling, as you know, is a recreational sport that's really exploded over the last 5 to 10 years. It's impacting all of our roadways in the beautiful parts of our county, so it's an issue we're working on very hard. Any other questions for me while I'm here? Yes, ma'am.
So, what's been engineered on North County Road to say, implemented, we know what changes those are going to be?
Yes, what I'll do is, when I get back, I'll get the engineering study and we'll email you out, I'll email it to Arlene and she can share it with you, sort of the bullet points of what the study showed and what the improvements are scheduled to be. Yes, sir.
Follow-up question. Do you agree with that?
My agreement, I think, is immaterial. I took the recommendations of the citizens and we're using that as the basis. That ordinance then will go to the county council for consideration.
You didn't have a personal application provided along with the grant. Did they say justification for them to keep that product? Is there other than that's a general overall regulation now?
I don't recall in the report specifically a section saying why we kept it out in the southwest portion of the valley. The committee unanimously agreed, though, that the boundaries that existed before shouldn't be changed. Should not be changed, no.
They were existing before, now they decided to go out there and business in.
So
How it should be kept.
let me clarify. What the decision of the Blue Ribbon Commission was that the ordinance that drew the boundaries in 1997 that included high country estates, the boundaries, that map, should not be changed. They made no recommendations to change those boundaries.
Make an exception for.
They did not make any recommendations for an exception.
We don't have any opinion, right or wrong, good or bad. This was obviously stymied control.
Well, I think the intent of the ordinance when it was written was to balance development in these very fragile areas, and I think it's a balancing act, and it's not perfect, it's not pro-development, it's not anti-development, it is what it is, and the intent behind it was to balance these very challenging issues in these challenging areas. He's chuckling at me up here.
Okay, well, what are you balancing? You can't, the amount of houses versus a utility that they're able to stand to.
Well, I think there's a lot of issues. There's utilities, but I think it's about the ecosystem, the quality of life, what you can put on there, how much development is appropriate. All of those things get considered.
Was there anyone that was, had any feeling for the people with the landowners and that blue ribbon?
You had landowners from this area who sat on that committee.
They weren't present, so they hated landowners. And they agreed with that. They were.
Any other questions? Okay. If you wouldn't mind emailing me those pictures, that'd be great. I appreciate it. I also appreciate being invited out here every year. Sometimes I don't know what the issues that are facing your communities are until you tell me face to face. So thank you for raising some issues today. I will be getting in touch with Aaron on your behalf.
Okay, we'll jump back to our main agenda. The first item is the minutes from last year. Everybody has copies of those minutes. And instead of taking the time to read them, the board members have read them. Does anybody see anything in those minutes that you remembered that were different from what were in there? Okay, as far as the board, do we have a motion to approve minutes? Do we have a second? All in favor of the minutes? Last year's annual meeting are approved. Libby normally does the treasurer's report. She's in Vernon right now with her grandson's wedding. So I'm going to try to follow in her tracks on that. So I will go through this past year's budget and actual, and then look at this coming year's budget. Okay, we budgeted $132,000 in income this year. As of the end of May, we spent $120,000. A couple things that kind of catch our attention that may be different. Bad debt expense is shown as an expense. This was a recommendation from our accountant that we show that as an expense, and that's generally if somebody's property is foreclosed on, their assessments, we have no way of collecting their assessments. So we have to put that into figures, the actual cost. Legal fees were a little bit over budget, and a lot of the costs were during the ongoing negotiations involving the most recent lawsuit. We were trying to negotiate some sort of settlement. The insurance pays for the attorney that's doing the litigation, but he comes to our HOA attorney for advice on our particular documents and that sort of thing. So there was some time wrapped up on that. And also, when we collect assessments, where we're negotiating, we filed to collect assessments. There's a lot of legal time spent going back and forth to negotiate a payment schedule of some type. And we don't get attorney's fees until it goes to court. And a lot of times we try to settle it without taking people to court. So that has cost us some more. We're looking at a better way to do that next year. Let's see, accounting and audit prep, that went a little bit over budget. And every year we have to hire an outside auditor to audit our books. And we also use a CPA to do our file taxes and make recommendations on the way we do our paperwork. Okay, so if you look at the bottom line of what we spent, we've spent $85,000 to date. Again, our budget was $132,000, but we brought in $120,000. We did collect some back assessments. We had some costs that's identified as a capital improvement. And what this was, $6,400, that was changing out a culvert pipe in one of the roads that had actually rusted through and broken through. And our accountant said that should be under capital improvements. Normally we would put that under road maintenance, but it's just in a different category. So the bottom line is income minus expenses. We're still ahead by $43,000. We will be bringing in some assessments before the end of the year. The end of the year ends the end of June, and there will be some expenses in June. So that figure I assume that figure will probably be more like $30,000. There's still some road work that may be done during the month of June also that will cost some money. So any questions on that? Okay, and then next year's budget, our assessments are going up to $409 per unit. We're planning on $130,000 in income. A couple highlights in our budget. Legal fees, we're planning to keep those at $30,000. We hope we've got some ideas that we may be able to reduce that this year, and we'll talk about that. One of the items I want to talk about later on. A new item, admin contracts, and I'm going to go into this in more detail later on. We have been discussing, and actually we put out an RFP for a company to come in and do our clerical work, bill collection, preps for the meetings. It's been all volunteer work. We have paid Libby some to do it, but she actually brings in her family members to volunteer to help do this. So I think we've become large enough, and there's a lot of the last Community Association Act that was passed by the legislature a few years ago. There's a lot of technical requirements now with HOAs, and where our idea is to hire a firm that handles managing HOAs, and we sent out RFPs to 7 organizations locally. We got 3 responses back, and we'll be interviewing them next week and hopefully making a decision on that. But it is costly, but I think with the collections, it's hard to get volunteers to collect money from people. And I don't think anybody wants to collect from their neighbors. So that's part of our justification for that. Another item, I'm going to talk about this in a little more detail, is the reserve fund for the Step Mountain culvert. We're going to set aside $50,000 for that, and that's coming from our cash balance. So that's not coming from current assessments. We just have to set aside the money to show that money can only be used for that culvert pipe. So that's pretty much the budget. We're budgeting for what we assume income will bring in next year. So any questions on that? Okay. As far as the budget, the board did vote on the budget, and this is a question that came up a couple of years ago, is how our budget was approved. By state code, the board has to come up with a budget. Our documents require that we let everybody know what their assessments will be for the following year, 30 days in advance, and that's sent out with the budget. In that budget, we do we accommodate giving the officers credit for their assessments for that year, and it's up to the officers to accept that credit or not. Some do and some don't, and that's in our bylaws. They can do that. Oh, yes, and this is going to go in the bylaws. The membership has the ability to disapprove the budget, and this again goes back to your assessments. However, they have to vote on that. You have to have, I believe it's 50% of the membership to vote to change that. And that wording comes from the Community Association Act, and we're going to take that wording and add it to our bylaws as an amendment, so that's clear to everybody. Okay, any questions? Okay. Okay, well, let's move on to general topics then. Okay, get on the water B. Was everybody here for the Area B water tank discussion? Okay, if you weren't here, again, I'd be glad to talk to you at the end of the meeting, or you may even have questions during the membership question. We may have some discussion on that. But it is important that everybody come up to speed on that.
Marlene,
Yeah.
why don't you make it clear about the minutes print or the...
Oh, yes, thank you.
Well, that's ready.
Thank you. The letter that went out from the county, there was a mistake, a typo, that everybody was given an estimate of what their assessment would be, and they said an annual assessment, and that's actually a total assessment to be paid over 20 years. The county is going to resend that letter out after this meeting, just to make sure. There's a lot of people who live out of state, who probably couldn't come to the meeting. We want to just make sure everybody is informed on that. Okay, next item is, oh, I'm sorry.
On that letter that come out, that, what you stated, that's only 20 years?
Yes.
That's not a yearly?
No, that's over 20 years, you can have to pay that. And so they'll send out a correction that says that. So keep an eye on your mail, and then you get a chance. They did have a questionnaire in there. They'll have another questionnaire. So what we're afraid, some people may have voted against it, and really didn't mean to, or vice versa. So that questionnaire, they'll send another one to you down in the county.
Well, the 26,000, one lot, that would be over 20 years, not every year.
Right, over 20 years.
They are, I want you to mention too, that letter is not vote for.
Yeah, it's not a vote, it's not a formal vote for or against it. It's just to get your feelings if you want the county to proceed with this process. Because it is a fairly long process, and people are clearly opposed to it. You know, the county really doesn't want to put forth the effort to shut down anybody's throat. I hope.
Well, that makes a lot of difference. $26,000 a year. The next 20 years, always a-
Yeah, it does.
Like a couple million.
Yeah, who has that kind of money, so. Okay, next item, the 2014 updated the reserve analysis, and this was mailed out to everybody, and this goes back to that $50,000 that I pointed out to you. We're required to do again, this is a Community Association Act, we're required to do a reserve analysis. Every homeowner association is required to do this. And what it mainly means to us, we were to look at any part of our infrastructure that if it were to fail, or it looks like it's going to fail, that we need to have some money in an account to take care of that. And you have to identify it by component. So when we looked at this a couple years ago, the water system is pretty much Harriman's responsibility now. The roads, being gravel roads, when there's a washout or something like that, we do that through our normal budget. And the only thing we can find were the culvert pipes that Rose Creek flows through. And so we identified those, and it was 2012, we said, okay, we're going to hire an engineer, determine which ones are the worst case, and just use our cash balance to replace them. And so that's what we did. And there was 2 of them that were really in critical condition. And if you were at some of the previous meetings, we showed pictures of them, and those have been replaced. However, there's a 3rd one, and this is the one where Rose Creek goes under Step Mountain Road. And that culvert pipe isn't in really bad condition right now. However, the engineer said it is a fairly steep grade, and there's stuff is starting to accumulate in it. And the county gives a 20-year life on those metal culvert pipes, and ours is 30 years old. If that pipe were to fail, the utilities going up to the houses to the east of that, and the properties up above, and to the upper well, all go over that. And if that were to fail, it would be a pretty major problem. So that's why we said that should be a priority. We need to put some money aside for that. And in a couple of years, maybe replace it. So we're going to start out with $50,000 this year, and then next year, $50,000 comes out of our cash balance. So it's not an increased assessment for that or anything. Then next year, $15,500, and then the year after that, $15,500, and that would give us the money in an account to replace that pipe. And that account is set. Nobody can use it for anything else except that pipe unless the membership votes on it. And this reserve fund is what it's called. It's again according to the State Community Act. is something we should revisit periodically. There may be another problem that develops that we haven't even seen at this point. I think the intent behind this new state law was for HOAs that have clubhouses and swimming pools and things like that. We really don't have that complicated with infrastructure in that way, but we do have some critical pieces. So, any questions on that? Yes.
In the budget that you just went over, I don't see the reserve fund coming out of the income versus less expenses. It's balanced down, so.
It's not. It's coming out of our cash balance.
Okay, but next year it will be reflected in the budget itself?
Next year, we could go either way. The board will have to look at that at that point. If there's still some money in the cash balance, say we underspend this year's budget significantly, then we can transfer that money to there. Okay, next item, HOA services provider, and this is what I alluded to in the budget. I probably did explain it a little more than, at that point, we, again, want to hire an outside firm to do clerical work, bookkeeping, bill collection, meeting preparation. And the firms that have put in proposals, it varies from $16,000 to $25,000 a year. And so we're going to interview them and see what they provide, those costs, and then decide on a qualified firm to do that. Any questions on that? They even offered to go around and look for HOA or ACC violations. And I said, I don't think you wanted to get into that. So.
Just keep in mind, for $25,000 a year, you can hire a full-time person to manage that. That's a lot.
You know, I've been doing this and it's almost a full-time job.
That's okay. If it is, it is. That's okay.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind that should be considered as an alternative.
It was a big chunk of money, and the one firm that had the high bid, that's what they offered, was to come out and drive around and look for violations. And again, they're probably thinking of condo complexes where somebody left their garbage can out. You know, we enjoy the ability to leave our garbage cans out. So, you know, things like that, I think that one was overkill. So when we interview them, we'll say, you've asked for a lot of things we don't need.
That's fine. Is there an expectation that the extra fees they'll be able to collect from back, will that, how much of that is the expectation will help cover that?
They have said it would help, but see, they use, two of them team up with the collections company, and so the collections company charges their costs back to the people that they're collecting the fees from. So I think we'll be able, it will cost us less than what we do now because we go directly to our attorneys, and that takes a long time and it drags on and on and on. So this kind of provides a middle person for that.
We're also looking for these streets, which is also.
Yes, one of the firms, they actually have regular training for board members to bring them up to speed. So they attend a lot of the professional society groups so they can keep the board current on new laws, things like that.
That's not the success rate, which we should try to correct. Success rate
There's what that part.
the success rate that they have in collecting the assessments.
They, on their proposals, on the written proposals, they all brag about a high success rate. And so when we interview them, we're going to ask the details. It's very interesting. And people put things in writing, but when you start asking a lot of questions, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we find out. Okay. Board procedures, document. This is something we talked about last year that we wanted to put together. We have been working on this, and it's just to put in writing a lot of things we do, a lot of procedures we do. It was really helpful to take that draft and use that as the scope of work on the RFP for the consultant. Once we get a consultant online, or the management services provider, whatever you want to call them, I think they'll be helpful too in updating that, so we have a good document that people understand a lot of the things we do. Okay, and that's an ongoing project. One of the goals for this year was to look at distributing resources better somehow between residents and non-residents, and trying to get, I think it has been a misconception that the HOA is just for residents. Yeah, we come to meetings, there's a lot of things going on here locally we end up talking about, but we have been trying to pull in both sides. We sent out in our letter in January wanting to try to set up some group to look at roads, just to recommend, help us with maybe updating the road master plan. The other one was trying to set up a group of people to just give us some input. What else could we do for landowners out here? And I had actually no response on that. We did have a landowner come to one of our monthly meetings and have we had some pretty good discussions, and some of the frustrations with the counties with the septic systems and the source protection area. He was going to go meet with the county. We didn't hear back on that. One of the other things was reducing the size of the source protection area in area D. There's two things that are causing that. One is the Harriman Springs, the other is the High Country Well. Harriman has an attorney an engineer that's qualified in reevaluating those. So they have contacted their engineer to relook at the source protection area caused by their springs. And the same engineer is going to relook at our upper well. And we've agreed to pay the fees for that, to look at that upper well. And Tom's going to talk about some of the timing on that when he does his report. Those were probably some of the things we've been working on. Again, I welcome any of the non-residents with any issues to come directly to us. If you want to schedule a time just to come to a monthly meeting and just talk about some of these issues. You can see the frustration with the FCAUS, the discussions with the new water tank, how can we make that fair so everybody benefits from it. And there are a lot of unknowns in funding something like that. We're projecting out into the future. The growth may never come here, or we may have a huge boom. In 30 years of owning property out here, I've seen it go up and down. So do contact us. Any questions on that? Any comments?
Good work.
Yeah.
I said good work.
Okay, well, let's go on to the next slide. Rose, Jeremy?
I've got one slide, so I have to go through this pretty fast. As Arlene pointed out, budget-wise, we had one repair this past year, replacing the culvert pipe. That's really all we did by way of repairs. Is that there? It's been brought to my attention just in the last couple of weeks that we've got another culvert, actually on the same stretch of road that's got the same issues as the culvert pipe we just replaced. So we'll be looking at probably replacing We've done our first round of grading in the area. Typically, we'll do this twice a year in the spring and fall. As a board, we've gone out and identified some areas where we need to bring in some more material. We've got several places that we have in mind to do that. Hopefully get that done here the next month, bring some of that material in. So by way of maintenance, again, we've been very conservative in our spending. We're really just in maintenance mode to make sure that the roads are in fair shape, and really don't have any planned major improvements at this point. So if there are some things that you would like to see done, now's a great time to voice that, so I'll open it up. Yes?
Could you grade Shaggy Mountain Road past the Griffiths?
Yes, that's south in there where we get a lot of mud and it's unproved. On those areas like that, we'll definitely have once a year. We've got another area that's similar to that we're going to, and a lot of this is kind of weather permitting. We like to have some good moisture content in the road so that if we do grade over it, it stays and binds together. We've got a few potholes. We're going to try to hit some of those and kind of do a little, there's a few Rose Creek Road plan, I believe was one of the roads that we didn't do a full grading on. We'll probably just do a few spots on that, a couple of places as well. Yes?
Do they have any specifications for the fill that comes in? Because when I go for walks, it seems like when they put fill down and grade, there's rocks about that big that actually end up damaging new stuff. Instead of just putting down a smooth road base and rolling over and having everything compact, some of the rocks in the fill or whatever it is they bring in seem to cause that damage over and over.
Most of those rocks are actually coming from the edge, so that when they first come in, they'll cut it, cut everything away, and then bring it back in. And it's kind of hit and miss. I've had extensive discussions with Rex on this, and there's another guy that contracts with Rex. Most of the time, Rex will go back through and make sure that they get those big rocks out of the road. There have been times when his partner has gone through and has missed some of those. And I feel your pain. We do get those rocks out there, and I'm guilty of this myself. I don't know how many times I've driven past rocks on the road where I probably could have just stopped off and thrown them off to the side a little bit. And again, it's a balancing act that we don't go back through and roll everything and compact it down because that just really pushes up our expenses quite a bit. And so, I understand the frustration of the big rocks, and he has spoken to his partner to make sure that he goes back over it again and tries to push those off, and he can't do those big rocks. Yes?
That brings me to my point. On Arnold Hollow, they went in and he plowed, went through the side, brought up great big huge rocks, left a big mound in the middle, and then he didn't clean up all the big rocks. I busted my front end on my car that I just bought on the rocks. I asked the guy grading, he says, fuck the HOA, you're responsible for it.
Okay, all of the contracting work that we have done, they all carry liability insurance. And so I'll get with you afterwards. I'm not sure exactly what's involved in how to file a claim. I have to do that.
Yeah, I asked him about it. He says it's not the association, that's their problem. I understand he's driving up and down Arnold Hollow and cleaning up the rocks that are on the side of the road and throwing them out of the way. I would have people pass me, put dirt on me, trying to get past them. I'd stop and pick rocks up. But I was told on the S-turn too that the power company had to come and fix the line on the side of the road. And they weren't going to fix the S-turn until the power company came and fixed their problem, because they wanted the power company to repair the road. That was a year and a half ago.
Yeah, when I spoke to the power company last year, because they've got the power line that was on the other side of the ramp, the loop run as well. And I was told that they didn't have the money in the budget to do that, so they just pushed me off on it. And then they ended up repairing on the other side. So I still need to follow up with the power company to find out what the plans are. I don't know when they're going to have that replaced.
Oh, I do know when they come to grade the road, they will not do the S-turn. They stop at the bottom, they go up to the top of it, and then go again. They leave the ruts in there. I've seen people bounce off their seats and hit their heads on the ceilings trying to get at the capital ruts right around on the second bed on the S-turn. I let myself.
Yeah, that S-curve is definitely one of the most challenging spots in the canyon to try to keep maintained. There's a lot of traffic that likes to go a little too fast down that road and it does tear it up. So I'll let you know what the power company tells me on that. And again, we want to make sure that every road is graded at least once through the entire association. And most areas are typically get 2 grades in the spring and fall. Yes. So that's one of the areas that's identified. We're actually bringing in some more material in there. And I'm not sure how far down on that road he's gone, what the exact spot is, but most of the general grading has been done. I'm sorry, what? I'm not sure how far down you're referring to. So there's part of that road that, again, where there's currently no homes. Those are the areas that will hit once a year. And I'm not sure how far down on that road he's gone. Is your name Manning? Are you that house just right? I mean, excuse me, not the lot. But I think he's gone up to that lot or pretty close to that. I don't know how much further down he's going. Yeah, again, when we went out there, we've got it marked on that lane to do some more grading work and bring in some material.
So this year, we graded at least once.
Yeah, all the roads will be graded at least once. Yes?
I'm from Rose Creek, but I live on Rose Creek as well. And over the last 20 years, we've had a ditch on the big part of Rose Creek. As you go up the hill, it's on the east side to carry the rainwater, the snow melt off, which work. And right at Bull Creek, they put in a culvert, which is breaking down, it's still pretty much. But as you go down, go back door, where it's coming out, the last house was right at Springs, and that ditch was liberated when this road was put in. Road was put a culvert in, so the water cuts across and ends up in that flattened out area where it comes to the creek. And that, I believe, is part of the problem for the potholes that are at the bottom of the hill. So you have heavy equipment, like we have fires, there's heavy trucks coming in, we have garbage trucks, which is more likely. And we also have a speeding problem, so when you speed, again, they hit the bottom of that, and it just, you can't get through there without multiple potholes. So I was hoping that the water could divert either into Griffith's Place, which is really the creek, or to another side. And I talked to guys when they were working on that boulder, and asked them if they could slope that. But obviously, the water is starting to slope. It's terrible. And I still think that culvert should be put. Not only big culvert, I'm talking about like ditch culvert, or area somebody's driveway.
Yeah, in a number of areas in our community, when people put in their driveways, things are so steep, they've extended them into the roads, and it's a challenge with that. So keep that in mind too. Assuming if you're getting the proper permits to do that, it'll be done properly. But when you've got your driveway going out towards that road, you do need those culverts in there. And I'm not sure exactly what we can do to fix that, but we'll definitely look at it.
The cares that we're working to do involve grading the building. It's like, just very considered. I'm talking about uncovering those patches. It's a constant ongoing problem.
Yes.
And you have to go down to about 2 miles an hour if you want to get the shop. Your car, or the trailer, or the truck, or whatever.
And Rose Creek Lane is one of those roads that we do have, we're going to go back and do some spot work on. Yes?
On Farm Road up there on Step G Lane, right down there at the bottom where it takes off to go to the step down, they had a drainage culvert right there, and I complained about it, how old coming in, the water was running down into it, I complained about it, and I kept filled it in, but they took a bunch of large rocks, threw it in that culvert, and threw dirt over it. It does not drain at all anymore. It's probably going to be, that's fine.
Okay.
But I watched them fill it up with rocks and then throw dirt on it, so I know that that's still working.
Yeah, there's I'm not even sure where all the culverts are at, because over time, a lot of them have been covered up. So, again, as residents, if you bring those to our attention, and we're working around and factor that into the budget to get these things fixed. So I'll jump that one for now as well to take a look at it. Anybody else? All right, well, since my term's up, I just want to publicly thank the board. And have an opportunity to work with them, they've been great, enjoyed it. And I just want to thank all of you for your support. This is my last month of the board, and just want to thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, let's go over to Glenn. We've skipped Glenn.
It's okay, it feels good to get skipped occasionally. Let's see, as many of you know, we've had munitions cleanup going on in Area D up there. And I talked to Jeff Fitzmeyer this past week, it's been kind of running that operation. Basically, Utah National Guard started this process, and the government's paying for it. They've hired an outside contractor that deals with munitions to clean up the area. Many of you know there's shells up there, there's been a light ordinance that's been set up there for years. So, anyway, initially it started out as about an 800 acre area. In 2011, they knocked out about 134 acres. So, this past couple of months, we've had teams up there working on the 634 acres that were left. Basically what they've done is gone through the whole area. If you've been up there, you've seen all the markers. They've basically broken it down into grids that are 100 foot by 100 foot. So 600 and some odd acres of 100-foot grids equals about 3,000, a little more than 3,000 grids. So they've been up there with 3 teams. On each team is 22 guys. They each have metal detectors, and they basically stand arm to arm and take out a 100-square-foot swath and work that area, combing through the dense oak, brush, and everything to find everything that was up there. The good news is that they didn't really find anything that was live up there this time. And this is the final complete search. So they found some shells, they found a lot of debris, different things, but nothing that was unexploded ordnance. So that is really good. And Jeff mentioned to me, he said, usually when they come out on these projects, we were able to get 100% participation. If the people who live up there had to sign a document, give them access, to go in and do the search. Very rarely do they get 100%. We just want to commend everybody in high country because we had that and we were able to knock it out. They're about 95% done up there now. So it's just a matter of once the main crews, 2 of the main crews have already been released. There's one that they're kind of finishing up. Once they're done, then some of the quality control people will be going through, double checking. Once that's done, then they'll be pulling the stakes and they'll be gone. One of the interesting things that Jeff told me was they have a process for quality control purposes where they plant what they call seeds up there. They have little metal pieces that they plant, and both Parson, the company that was doing the removal, did this, and the government did this. And they're required to get a quality control approval on this. They have to find these pieces that have been put out there. So they go through the area, they found all the pieces that they were supposed to, which indicates that they covered the area thoroughly and found hopefully all the pieces that are actually there. So anyway, the end run is by the time they walk out of there, they'll fill out documentation. Each landowner up there will receive a report on what was found on their property, if anything. And I would highly recommend, and I'm not sure how the county works on this, but once you get that report, I'd stick that in the safe deposit box. I'd go down to the county with a copy and see if you can get it filed with your land paperwork down there to show it shows up on county documents. A lot of places they don't get 100%, and then you find some piece of property, somebody's trying to buy it or sell it, and they got something note on there, that this area should have been cleaned for munitions and wasn't done. And then you've got a big problem. So fortunately, you'll have documentation if you live up there to cover that. Get it filed, get it put someplace safe. So anyway, I think they did a great job on it. They're just about done. So a couple other things. We had a canyon cleanup a couple of weeks ago. We didn't have a big turnout this year, but we got some pretty good headway made along the roads. You know, with the winds that we get and everything, it's hard to just keep up sometimes with the garbage flying out of the garbage cans because the lids would flop out. So we appreciate those that showed up, walked the roads. I know Jeremy came down and walked half of Rose Canyon Road by himself, covering that area. We had other people up other roads. You know, we got quite a bit of stuff picked up. So, and this will kind of tie into something else I'm going to talk about in a minute. But right across Kitty Corners of the common area there, I was wandering around while we were waiting for people to bring their bags back and stuff. But I think it was actually San Granato's property there. But somebody had been out in the field out there changing oil in either trucks or ATVs or something. There were 3 pans filled with oil and 2 pans filled with antifreeze, just sitting out there in the weeds. So, you know, as landowners and homeowners up here, if you see anything going on like that, you know, stop and talk to people. You know, ask them what's up. If you know somebody doesn't belong here, up there, you know, just kids running the roads, and you know, a lot of times you find kids up on a hill having a beer and want to start a little fire, goof off. You know, we need to kind of, you know, catch them on it and go ahead.
The planned location for the tank in Area B is a chronic
Yes.
children's party place.
Yeah.
Just often on the weekend, there's fires. People
Yeah.
going up there all night having fires. 3 weeks ago, there were 2 guys with an assault rifle that drove all the way up there. One guy was firing off the assault rifle while standing, and his vehicle was standing through his sunroof. While the other guy drove the car.
Yeah.
That kind of behavior is chronic up there. And what's worse is because that road is open in the spring, ATVs and 4-wheelers go up there, and they don't stop at the tank pad. They keep going up the ridge and have dug a road there that really does not exist except for these illegal, and that could be all blocked with simple 2 concrete barriers, and could block that because of the nature of the road. There's a fence on one side, there's a steep bank of trees on the other. 2 little low concrete barriers could prevent all that, could prevent all those calls to the police.
That particular part right there that you're talking about isn't even, that's BLM land, and that's one of the issues that we're having.
No, I'm talking about on ours, on Shaggy Mountain Road, if you prevent vehicles from going up to the tank pad, that could prevent all that illegal activity, all that risk of fire damage. Will the association do that? 2 concrete barriers is all it would take. And I've talked years ago with the homeowner there. They're not averse to that.
Is that Granada? They always have these?
Dienza.
Yeah.
Posada, it's right next to my
145.
I put boulders out there, and people move the boulders.
Yeah.
But I don't have a tractor.
It requires something, a serious barrier.
Move some of the munitions down there.
Well, in arms race, they got assault rifles already.
You know, I might have access to getting some K-rail at a really good price. And, you know, the cement barriers we have along the freeway and stuff, it's kind of white shape coming up.
That would be serious.
Okay, let's see what we can do with that and get something up there. You know, it's all in our best interest, you know, if we see these things going on, let's work on a plan together to get it stopped. You know, and you know, be bold enough to call people on it when they're out doing stuff like that. If you're a little nervous about it, call somebody in the HOA. If you know they're not supposed to be there, call the police. You know, if we get the word out that people out here aren't taking the gun from people. A year ago, I drove up my lane, which is, you know, off of Shaggy Mountain, in the private lane, and there was some guys in a pickup truck up there. And I thought maybe that broke down, so I parked and walked over there, and they weren't anybody that lived up the canyon. And they were changing their oil and working on their pickup truck. I said, what are you doing? Oh, we're just out enjoying the nice day, you know, working on the truck. I said, you know, you're on private property, you're on my land. Oh, no, this is Rose Canyon. you know, they don't have a clue.
This is a place, guns, fires, practically every week in the summer. And I'm just wondering, a concrete barrier like that would be sufficient. Will you make that happen?
We'll make it happen.
That's why we need your support at the Harriman City meeting, when they put in those 165 homes here, right here on the corner by the Bell.
Yeah.
It's just all gonna get worse.
Yeah, it's gonna get worse. Was it 2 weeks ago, Jeremy, Rose Creek Lane on one of the parcels up there where there isn't a house. There were some kids up there burning pallets, having a bonfire.
So the other thing that may help, and I know there's a sign down at the bottom, but it's not real obvious, is just something that makes it very, very, very clear as they cut through that area that they're entering private property. You do that on each of the ends.
That's something that I kind of put on my list.
Totally
We're gonna do new signs.
Totally insufficient. No, these are people.
No, but we should do it anyway.
No.
Well, you know, we should, because you know, if they're pulling up there and you know they don't belong there, you say, "Did you see that sign at the bottom of the hill?" And they give you any grief, you just pull out the phone and say, "Okay, I've got your license number, I'm going."
Totally agree with myself.
So, yeah, we need to budget ourselves the signs. A lot of them are in bad shape. I know a lot of them Shaggy Mountain, that one's laying down. So I'll work on that this year, we'll get that taken care of. So yeah, ongoing problem. Anything else regarding that? Go ahead.
Well, not exactly regarding that, but it still falls under the community thing. Can you say definitively whether or not weapons can be fired in unincorporated Salt Lake County, that they are allowed in?
Weapons are not allowed in
No,
Salt Lake
absolutely
County.
not. They
Okay, so
cannot
that's what
fire
I-
those.
Which
That's what I
includes
thought.
arrows, bows and arrows, by the way.
You can use what, poison
You
arrows?
cannot use archery in Salt Lake County.
Okay, well, that's what I thought, but you know, I just recently heard again from somebody that, you know, that it was a previous mayor of Harriman actually said that you can hunt up there, that the law was changed or whatever. I mean, these rumors that get started just amaze me, and it scares me because, yeah, they were talking about coyotes. They were saying, well, you guys should just go start hunting them because there's a bounty on them, and you can hunt up there. And it's like, no. So that scares me. I just wanted to confirm that.
So after last year's meeting, I got really curious and I called the sheriff.
Yeah.
And I called the sheriff and he said that indeed we could fire guns as long as we were a certain distance from homes. I
See,
don't
that's the
remember
kind of thing
exactly
that
what it
scares
was,
me, is
but
that if the
that's what the
sheriff's
sheriff
office
told
thinks
me.
it's okay. That's scary.
600 feet is what we've got back here. That sounds about right, something like that.
That would be something I would like to.
However, the sheriff did say that, you know, if we get a complaint about someone shooting a gun, we're on it. It doesn't matter how far they are from the house. So it sounds like they take it seriously, but they're not
How
necessarily
can we educate the
doing something
sheriff's
illegal.
department about the county's laws?
It's a Salt Lake County law as far as I know. No
But
fire.
they're Salt Lake County sheriffs and they don't know that?
Yeah, all right, yeah, good point.
I'm a little
Well, make some
concerned.
phone calls
And we're hunters. I mean, my family hunts, not in high country. But when you've been out hunting, this idea of not within 600 yards or feet or whatever is scary because when you've got terrain that is up and down and somebody shoots, even if they're within 600 yards away, that bullet could still come near a child or a person, you know, because of the way the terrain is and the trajectory and all that stuff. It's just scary. I don't think that you should be able to shoot a rifle up there at all.
Totally agree. Yeah, if you hear gunshots up our canyon, call the police and see if you can narrow it down.
That just made me more afraid, Jack.
Yeah, any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
You're wrong about the Salt Lake County ordinance. The website, even the BLM website says it's fine in Salt Lake County, so you may want to double check it.
Okay, we'll figure that out.
I mean, no offense, but.
No, that's fine. Last time I talked to them, that was the routine. They said, no, we don't want anybody firing.
So we've got the sheriff saying
yeah,
it's okay.
yeah.
The website,
Right.
even the BLM saying in Salt Lake County, no problem.
We'll get down to it.
Figure it out.
As it relates to Rose Canyon, and then it'll be in the next breeze. How's
And
that?
if it's an issue, I mean, let's put it in the HOA bylaws, because it's not in there.
Yeah, all right, good point. We'll get that run out. Apparently I've got all the information also. So go ahead.
Question, if you're redoing signage out there, even if that's on your agenda, is there any way we can include some of the penalties associated with open fires or with using firearms, something to give some sort of ends up to the call implication to, it's a $500 fine, $1,000 fine?
Yeah, maybe that would be good at the entrance to the canyon. There, more specific, and on the individual roads, just a smaller signs and.
Something bold and sweet.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we moved here 6 months ago, and we were constantly asking each other, do we have a fire up here? We don't know. Had no idea. We drove that road, every day. Just now we know, obviously. Don't worry. But the point is, the message is not clear as you enter that area.
Right.
That's not allowed. So.
Right. Excellent. All right. Anything else?
When you talk about come to the signs and what have you, because they swing that corner, and it just,
Yeah.
and I have to say, there are 3/4 of our residents.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's
Going
true.
both ways.
That's
They
true.
go across the yellow line past me, and I'm saying, the sign in my head says, limit to this dirt. So if you 20 or 25, you're legal, they're not. If they're over that, but, when you're dealing with people, and I'm a person, you come in and you do these kinds of things. And so how do you control that? Demonstrators, some of all I have to ride out of this with my horse trailers. I can't do the trail. So, and I do, I don't know about something. You've got 15 miles per hour, cold because of gravel on Wood Street. I'd like to talk to
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we can all slow down a bit. Go ahead.
When you guys are talking about putting in signs and so on at the entrance, our area there, and I know I've heard the argument over the years about everybody neighbors use, not everybody gaining equal benefit from that. My thought is to consider making some sort of entrance to show that you're clearly entering a homeowners association. Just imagine whatever you will, having a giant gateway, a signpost.
That's a
wherever you
fabulous
thought
idea.
that would,
Yeah, pillars on either side or something.
Yeah.
So when you're entering, it's as clear as a bell that you're leaving the city and you're entering high country too. And so it is, I think, changing the mindset a little bit. And it might make people happy thinking that they benefit from that. I think
That's an interesting idea.
And it
Obviously, something we'll be talking
very,
about.
very aesthetically pleasing, something yes, that matches high country too. I agree with that. Something that speaks to what our community is coming in there. I think that's a fabulous idea.
Well, we'll talk that in our next meeting.
Hey, I have an idea. I have some trees still that we had to clear down. That they're junipers, we could probably cut the branches all off and make a nice little arch thing. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and grab a couple of those old mobile homes, bring it and stack them.
No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. All right, let's get moving on here. We've been here a long time today. As you know, each year we've been trying to do a fall party. We'd like to do that again sometime September, October. Please come out, get to know your neighbors, have a good time. We're looking for somebody to sponsor the party or have it at their home this year. So if you're interested in doing that, the Dartons did it last year for the chili cook-off. We had a great time. Not a particularly great show. We had quite a few people there, but it was good food, good people. Got to enjoy our neighbors. Had a good time. So my favorite chili, most of the chilies were named. The one that I liked the best was There Will Be Consequences. So don't know if we'll keep up with the theme on the chili. We might just have everybody bring a steak to grill or whatever you'd like and do other things, but we'll be doing something. So if anybody has the resources to put a few people up in their yard or their house for an afternoon or a few hours, please give me a call, and we'd love to do that. Let's see, Jack, if we could get, pull up some of those, let's go through those Rose Canyon Road pictures again. If any of you have been out here longer than about 5 minutes, you realize, we're getting more and more traffic every day on this road. Some of the stuff, I drive down this road, it scares me to death. You see pictures like this, go ahead and forward through. Just somebody out walking the dog, riding a bike, cars coming in both directions. We've got a lot of curves. They're kind of sharp radius curves in conjunction with, this is the one that just drives me crazy. And I should have sized this a little bit bigger. A lady, a double stroller, 2 kids in it, on a curve in the middle of the lane. Okay? Anyway, I know last year, I haven't seen her this year, but a lady would drive up the canyon and park in one of the little white spots and then walk with the stroller up the canyon further. So we've got a lot of people using the canyon. More people have, discovered the place than just those of us that live or own up there. So, we've got to really, when Patrick was here talking about the roads and all these things going on, the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the oil. And we've got to be squeaky about what happens on this road. We need improvements on it, it's obvious. Glady lives on a corner just north of 153rd South, where Shaggy Mountain comes in, the whole steep angle right there. What do you have? Like 2 or 3 people a year end up down there in his property and slide off that road in the ice. It's like a luge run right there. A couple of years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, it was a salt truck. Tipped over, dumped salt, killed a bunch of his trees. Just about every year, somebody's going down. So my thought was, even if we just had them, repave the road and add 18 inches to either side. I mean, if you follow horse trailers up and down this thing more than 5 minutes, unless it's one of those 10-foot 2-horse trailers, I mean, well, half the people don't know how to drive a trailer anyway, but the longer ones, they're all out in the middle of the lane. We don't have any stripe coming down the middle. There are fractures in the edge of the road, and these guys that are driving the horse trailers, they know where they're at, and they're avoiding them. So they're swinging wide a lot of times as they come around these corners. So, it's just a matter of time before somebody's hit. So we need to stay on the county. Let's see, were there any more pictures there, Jack? That may have been the last one.
Yeah,
but,
I think that's...
if any of you have a GoPro or you're up and down the canyon and you see something going on, take pictures, run your GoPro. If you catch something interesting, forward it to me, forward it to the county, say, look, we have a problem up here. We have more and more cyclists coming up there. A couple of weeks ago, I headed down the road and I passed 35 some odd cyclists, between Shaggy Mountain and the common area down there. Horse trailers coming up, I know next month they're starting that project at the end of the canyon. They're going to be increasing that area there for parking horse trailers. Somebody handed me a picture of what they're going to be doing up there. They're redoing that whole area where they park there. There's going to be 26 pull-through truck and horse trailer slots that are going to be built up in there. The county's spending $500,000 on it. So I'm not sure if it's going to be asphalted or what the plan is, the finished product, but they're going to be one way in up where Gerald Minion lives at the very end of the canyon. There's going to be one way in there across the creek, and then all these slots going down there and dig in the side of the hill, and then another way, the exit will be down just above L.D. Roberts' place apparently. So anyway, they're spending $500,000 on that. And our road's in pretty bad shape. They're working on repairing and upgrading bike lanes in other areas that we don't even have them. So, anything you can do as far as taking pictures, getting any kind of shot, calling up there and just saying, hey, I'm concerned about this. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. And hopefully it's not going to be anybody in the canyon.
Karen, I would encourage their residents to come on our campus.
Well, yeah, that's part of the issue. Well, and that's their right. Rose Canyon Road is a county road. And so we're going to have to kind of...
It can't be overhauled like this, around these curves all the time.
Well, they have the legal right to be up there on bikes and all that stuff. It's frustrating to us. They need to improve it so that it's a function of, I think we need to approach it from the function of safety. You know, because that's going to push buttons. You know, if we're on their case about it day and night, saying, look, we're really concerned about this. It's like that lady who got hit just before Thanksgiving last year. Did you see the article in the paper yesterday in the Tribune? You know, there was so much outburst about the thing that they jumped on it immediately and started making things right and changing things to accommodate the issue. You know, we need to do the same thing up here and just stay on it.
Who did we contact at the county for that?
I don't have Patrick Leary that was here.
Yeah.
That would be the best place to start because in this article specifically yesterday in the paper, his name was brought up in referring to what's called roads and townships. Was that I think that's kind of what he is over, is roads and townships. So that's a good place to start with Patrick Leary and just with county road office out there, you can find the right phone. So that'd be a good place to start. So let's see real quick here if there's anything else to finish up. We talked about the fire at Rosalie Creek Lane. You know, we have a lot of people that like to use the facilities that we have up here facilities. We don't have facilities, we have property. So if you want to get out and do something on your property, if you're going to have a fire, if you don't have a house here, but you come up and camp on your property or whatever, let people know what's going on, maybe your neighbors. If you're going to be camping out and having a fire, you know, let the guys that are around you know what's going on. You know, everybody's getting a little bit dicey up here. We've had, you know, 2 fires 2 years apart. So theoretically, this is another 2-year, you know, we're at that mark again. When people see smoke, they see fire, you know, they're jumping and getting upset real quick. So, you know, let people around you know what's going on. If you're coming up to spend time on your property, let the neighbors know what's going on.
All right, I'm so sorry. I'm the new guy here.
That's okay.
So
you guys are good. We appreciate it.
A fire is okay or is not okay?
In an approved, like a fire pit.
You know, there's been a lot of misgivings and stories about that up here too. We got a paper the other day, a fire is allowed up here, 3-foot diameter, 2-foot tall, burning wood, no bigger than that. Some people thought he had to be cooking food to be, you know, and so I know people up there that always have hot dogs and marshmallows out there when they have fires just to cover their work.
So water buckets nearby, you know,
yeah, you know,
but otherwise.
Yeah,
yes.
They are allowed unless it's a no-burn day.
Okay.
But, you know, with the dry grasses and everything up here, I mean, you know, it's great to have a fire and do that kind of thing, but man, it is just so scary up here. We're going to get everything, so.
Okay.
Yes. Totally no burn area? Got it. Excellent. Okay, so did you hear that?
Wait, let's say that again.
New 2014 no burn map, apparently we are on it.
Okay.
So, and that's, where do you go to see that?
It came through the other day, I'll have to get it from the website, they have the map already.
Okay.
And it's the whole.
Okay, we'll
Is
get that.
is that a Salt Lake County fire thing or is it a state map? Who publishes the map?
The fire.
Unified Fire Authority.
Okay.
And that's not a year-round map. It's
It's
just,
not a year-round map.
that applies to during the fire season.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
you know, some of the other things too is like 25 feet if it's not in a pit where you can't be near any combustible material. I
Right.
don't know of hardly any areas up here that fit that.
Yeah, unless you specifically cleared it that way, right?
But the thing is, just be smart about it. I mean, burning pallets is not smart.
Right.
And that was the son of a homeowner. So just, again, with your kids and stuff, I know it's fun to have bonfire, but it's just not safe.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. One more thing Walt Hoffman brought to me, on Tuesday the 17th, you may be interested in preparedness. They're down at the pavilion of LDS Church down at one of the canyon down there. They're having a ready, set, go. They're having Unified Fire Authority. They're going to be having somebody there showing how to put together 72-hour kits if you're interested in those kinds of things. You know, there are these things going on all around all the time. Take advantage of them. They're targeted.
When is that?
It'll be the 17th, and it's at 7 o'clock. It's a Tuesday. Tuesday, yes. All right.
This is sort of the road bags or something on Rose Creek for flood control after fires. It's sitting on the non-built side. It's on the north side of Rose Creek. And these big signs that use only, everybody wondered what it was. There was a huge, you know those giant bags they have nowadays in these landscape places?
Yeah.
They're a great big thing, and it had other bags in it, it was covered, and now it's a big thing, it's been essentially got a fire. And people opened them up to see what they were, what it was.
So it's just kind of a mess now?
Yeah, it's a dump.
Okay. Can we take a look at that?
And the sign's gone.
All right.
It was a nice sign, so I don't know.
All right. Yeah, we'll take a look at that and get it cleaned up. That's the issue. All right. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and, who's next up?
Just a second. Water.
Okay, I'll give you a quick overview on the water. This is strictly an informational brief. If you were at this morning's meeting about the water tank, I'm not going to replow that ground, but next slide, please. This is the water usage that we used in 2013. The good news is that we used 3 million gallons less than we normally use. That's good. That shows that we're doing some conservation up here. It may also be a factor of last year being a much wetter season. But that's the amount of water we used was 30 million gallons, 10 million gallons from the upper well, and about 20 million gallons from the we purchased from Harriman. Next slide, please. Water sampling, I always talk about this every year, just to assure everybody that our water meets all the standards, federal and state standards. We test the water monthly for bacteria, coliform, that sort of thing. And then also, there's a requirement by law every year for different types of minerals and other contaminants in the water, and those are all being tested. And Harriman notifies us immediately if we have a bad sample. I think we had a bad sample last July in the upper tank. It wasn't a bad sample, but it came back positive coliform up in Area D. We had to notify the people up there, particularly if you're elderly or have a small baby, to make sure that you boiled your water. It turned out we did a subsequent wet test, and the test was negative. But if we have a positive test, we have to notify the people that there's a possible coliform in the water. Coliform is a natural bacteria that shows up in water and shows up in all water. It's just it's a matter of what degree, how high that sample is, bacteria-wise in the water. That's why we notify people. But just to assure people that our water is safe to drink, both in the upper well and through the system at Harriman. And if you're interested in getting a copy of the report, the annual consumer confidence report, it's on our website, and you can get a copy from Harriman. Next slide, please. Okay, this is just our water expenses, and I'm not going to go through detail of all these line items, but basically, 91% of the year is gone, and that's the amount of revenue that has been brought in for water, and this is the amount of expenses that have been expended for water for these particular items. We are now paying for these particular line items, which is no longer a volunteer doing it, and that's the cost that it's costing us, as well as costing to do the fixing and the maintenance of the water system. Next slide, please. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the replacement tank, the Shaggy Mountain water tank, which is our present tank up in Area D. You've seen me brief these slides since 2009. That's in fact when we took these pictures. In 2009, I had divers go in the tank, and at that time they told me we had 5 years left on the tank. And subsequently, last summer, we had divers go back in the tank, and they said the tank has failed. And Harriman confirmed that, and we can no longer take the risk of that tank being a serviceable tank for the homeowners. So we got together with Harriman. Next slide, please. And we used these from the money that we received from Harriman from the water sale, the sale of water rights. We went out and got together with the water department at Harriman, and we are going to construct a new 300,000 gallon water tank. and right next to the that failed tank, and it's going to commence in July. The cost for that tank is $550,000, and as you can read on the slide, it should be complete by December. Right now, we are not issuing any water connections until that tank is complete. So if you're a property owner up here that's thinking about building, you won't be able to get a connection letter until December.
Question, what areas was that advertised? Is it A, B, and C?
It's A, B, and C.
Hey, Tom, I heard, I can't remember if it was Harriman that said this, but they were mentioning if it looks like construction's going smoothly and it's for sure going to be completed, then they're going to start issuing water letters. Does that sound right to you?
No.
In other words, like you could get a letter, you know, in
Until the tank is serviceable, and that tank, we're still relying on the old tank, there's no way we can issue a water connection letter. Because if the tank fails, I mean, we're going to be really in a lot of trouble.
Right,
So,
right. In particular, I know someone who wants to build soon.
I've had several people, they've had 6 or 7 people have called Harriman that want connection letters, that want to build. In fact, there's a person right next door to me across the street that wants to build, and they can't get a connection letter until that's correct.
Well, then there's a misinformation in the packet that we received, because it said in our packet prior to this meeting that if we wanted to hook up, we need to contact Justin if we had planned to do any construction with him this year.
Yeah.
So that's not valid.
No. He is the one he's the one that, in fact, will issue your connection letter, your permit.
Right, yeah, I'm aware of that, but it was in this packet of information that said that we should contact him if we had planned on building
correct.
this year. So this information is incorrect.
Yes, you need to contact him to get your,
But he's not issuing water.
But
But
he
he
will
won't
not-
issue anything because
That's
nothing's going
correct.
to happen for this year.
that's right, till the tank is complete. And then we're hoping to have, that tank may get completed sooner than December, but it usually takes 3 to 4 months to construct the tank. It'll be a concrete tank, it'll be halfway buried in the ground. It's going to be quite a construction project because they're going to have to blast. That area up there is all rock. But it'll be a much better tank than the tank we presently have now. The old tank will be salvaged, and that money will be plowed back into our water funds. Whatever money we get from that steel tank, the money will go back to the homeowners association. Any questions about this particular tank?
Can that old tank be repaired and used in the Area B pad?
No.
So what do you mean by salvage?
It's going to be taken apart, taken to scrap to go to a steel yard.
So why does this cost $500,000 when the proposed plan is I think $1.25 million for the tank in Area B?
Well, because for one thing, we're not doing all the piping and building pumping
No, but
stations.
remember that was another $1.25 million for the piping, and then it was $1.25 for the tank itself.
I don't recall what this.
Yeah.
I mean, the new replacement tank, or the new tank we're trying to build.
Yes.
I don't recall.
That's $3.3 million total, including the pipe running up to it. And why is this just $500,000?
Because for one thing, we don't have to run any piping or any new plumbing or pumps.
Okay.
That tank requires a lot of 10-inch pipes, 8-inch pipes. We're just going to connect the pipe from that tank to
Still,
this tank.
the breakdown was $1.25 million for the tank itself in Area B, more than double this.
Yeah.
And I wonder why.
I can't answer your question. Yeah, the other thing is a different size tank too. It's a much bigger tank. 100,000 gallons bigger.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a 400,000. But I think the majority of the cost of that expense of the tank is not the tank itself, it's the infrastructure to support that particular tank. It's a lot of putting in 10-inch water lines up in that particular area B is going to be very expensive. Next slide. Okay, the next couple of slides you're going to see up here are exactly the same slides I showed you last year. We have to plan to possibly raise water rates. And I briefed this slide last year to you, and we did not raise water rates. But I have to present it because if in fact that we do have to raise water rates, if you go pick up your mail at the mailbox, if you or if you go to the common area and look at that tank that sits on Tony Mascaro's property, that's probably the next tank we're going to have to replace. And that tank will not be as obviously not as costly as putting in a big water tank like we're doing at Shaggy Mountain, but that tank is going to have to be replaced. So we have to start a rainy day fund. We may have to increase water rates to replace that tank or do some other major repair to a water system. So if in fact we raise the water rates, this is the 5% increase. That's what your current base rate is. This would be your new base rate and the cost per gallons as it goes up. Next slide. Reason we replace, as I said, we have to have a rainy day fund. In addition, anytime we deal with banks or with the federal government or the state government to try to get funds, we have to show that we're doing our fiduciary responsibility of taking care of ourselves first before we're asking for a handout. Next slide.
Tom, on that previous slide, the water usage level, we use about 2,000 gallons a month, 1 to 2,000 per month. We don't try to particularly conserve. What was the value that was used for the engineering, the snow mass estimates of build out of 240 new homes and to estimate the size of the tank that would be? What's the usage per?
I have to go into the study. I don't know it off the top of my head, but they have a standard rate for all of that.
Well, I would guess it's quite a bit higher than our actual usage. And that's one of the things I question about Selmas, this proposed tank in Area B. It's overkill. It's much bigger than what's actually needed, even with the build out.
I question that. I don't think it's overkill. The Selmas is a pretty reputable company. It's the same company that Harriman used. Several of the cities in Salt Lake Valley use them as their engineering firm. I know the engineer that did the study, but I can get those figures for you if you want.
Yes, I know.
There's a standard, actually, there's a standard figure that engineers use statewide for all.
Yeah, and I just think that standard is closer to 20,000 per month, 20,000 gallons per month.
I don't know.
2,000 in maybe a typical year.
Yeah, I don't understand. Next slide, please. Okay, this is some of the things that we did in 2013. The most important one, I think, on here is we fixed the SCADA system on the tank. We can now, the guys down at Harriman can actually monitor the tank on his iPhone. He can turn the pumps on and off by using an app on his iPhone. So we're no longer, if we have a fire up here, he knows immediately that the tank is being drained. He can just by clicking on an app on his iPhone, he can change the pumping status in the water system up here, which is a great thing of technology. And we repaired 7 major water leaks this year. Again, it's a lot better for them to come out and repair them than for me to get out there and try to fix those water leaks. Next slide, please. This is what we plan to do this year. Again, it's just strictly a lot of maintenance on the system, which we should be doing, which we do annually now, replacing valves, and most importantly, exercising valves. If you don't exercise a valve, it tends to freeze up, and then when you have to close a valve or open up a fire hydrant, you find out it doesn't work. Next slide, please. Okay, I know fire is particularly this time of year, is a concern to most people up here. We have repaired all fire hydrants that are near or in the vicinity of homes. We have a couple of fire hydrants that are not near anybody's, near a home. One of them is in fact on Mascaro's property. It needs repair. We have that on our list to repair those this year. Next slide. And then lastly, Arlene talked a little bit about the source protection. We had a property owner that came to us and said, "Hey, that source protection thing is just overkill." And we decided to take that project on and do a new study on the source protection for Area D, which includes the spring for Harriman as well as the spring, or includes our well. And the Harriman agreed to hire an engineer. They're doing a study on that. We expect to have a report back by September. It's the good news and the bad news story because, for example, we did the source protection. We got the source protection removed for Area A when the wells were abandoned. every 5 years, you have to update the source protection plan. Well, in 2010, when we did the study, we also had the same engineer do our source protection, and the state came back and actually increased the source protection area, which includes many homes now on Rose Canyon Road. So I don't know how that study's going to turn out. It's up to the state to determine the size of the source protection zone. It goes to the Division of Drinking Water, and they really set the standards on the size of source protection. Hopefully, we can get that source protection zone reduced, and then we can get the people up in Area D to develop their property up there. Provided it's not in that forest. Next one.
Can I tell us where the springs are?
Yeah, the spring is if you go up, what's the road? Hollow Road. You just go past John Sharp's house, the last log cabin house. If you look off to the right, you'll see a sign that says Harriman. It sits right down there. They receive a lot of water from that. They use secondary water, like from the pond, for irrigation and water in their ball fields and all that stuff. There's never any intent to ever abandon it. So it provides them a great deal of secondary water.
When do you plan to have the results from the source protection study?
Pardon?
When do you plan to have
September.
the results back? September?
You should have the results by September. Hopefully we can get that reduced and people can do it. Yeah, it's a big spring. They get a lot of water. Any questions about for water this year?
If they use it for watering ball fields, then it doesn't really need to be potable water, does it? Why such a high standard?
There's a high standard for that. I don't know why they do it. They just don't want. I don't know. I can't answer the question. I'm not involved in this in the Utah rules of source protection. One thing I would like to caveat: if you weren't at the meeting this morning, the thing that I learned about the replacement water tank and the letter that the people sent out. What's important is if you don't respond to the letter, they consider that a yes vote. So no matter which way you lean, whether you lean you don't want it or you do want it, you need to stay engaged, I guess is what I'm trying to get the message across on this particular issue, whether you're for it or against it. So please, if you get a notification that we're having a meeting, or there's a public meeting about it, or a homeowners meeting, I really encourage all the homeowners to please come and hear both sides of the story so that we don't end up with something we don't want, or we do get a tank that the majority of the people do want. So, any other questions for water for this year? Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, I think to talk about the fun stuff. Is everybody gonna stay awake while we talk about our legal lawsuits? We did finally get a ruling on a lawsuit that came down in March, and I'm gonna walk you through what our legal status has been and what the suit's done for the last couple of years. You've been hearing probably from certain plaintiffs, you've been receiving mailings in the mail saying that they're gonna get the HOA dissolved. Those complaints have been dismissed. And they did not win that suit. Just to give everybody a background, there are two lawsuits that have been filed against the HOA, one in November of 2009, the other in August of 2010. They are essentially the same claims and many of the same parties and funded by the same people. So when they hit the court, they were actually combined into one case, and then because there were 3 different remedies that were requested, broken into 3 different processes through the legal system. There was a jury trial over road development and maintenance. There were claims against the individual board members, and there was a bench trial over dissolution of the HOA. Slide. At the jury trial in December of 2012, the plaintiffs were asking for damages because their roads were not maintained. They were asking for $1 million in damages. One of the plaintiffs was awarded $15,000, probably because he had a letter from the HOA talking about making a road available to him. The other plaintiffs have not received anything. The complaints against individual board members were originally dismissed by the district court on the basis of a special litigation committee. The Supreme Court has sent that back to the district court, so that's kind of still cooking. Next slide. Then we get to the part that we just got the ruling on, which also referenced some of those other issues. In this part of the case, the plaintiffs said the HOA should be dissolved because roads are not maintained appropriately or not equitably, because the board members are not doing things the way they're supposed to do them, and because we're not following our documents. And in terms of both board terms and lot sizes. So those of you who've been getting letters around here have been hearing these issues since these suits were filed. Next slide. The judge in our case ruled that since we've elected board members for terms that are longer than 1 year, for more than 30 years, the membership has ratified that change, even though it's not in compliance with the documents. So that whole issue about we're not following our documents, he said, no, you're not, but since everybody's been doing it, everybody knows they've been doing it, it's been ratified by the members. This is what our lawyer has been telling us is an appropriate legal standard. Same thing with the lot sizes. Our documents say restrictions on lot sizes, but because we've been doing something different in terms of voting assessments and voting rights for 20 years, the judge ruled that that was also ratified by the membership. Does that make sense to people? So basically, the way we've been doing it, the judge says, fine. Doesn't fit with the documents, but you've been doing it, it's okay. Judge also talked about the budgets and said there's no legal requirement for budgets to be approved by the membership. We did agree that we will be in compliance with the Community Association Act of 2011, which is that part about we present a budget, board approves a budget. If the members disagree with the budget, they can call for a special meeting, and if they get a vote of, I think it's 51% of the members, the budget can be disapproved. Any questions about that? Okay, next slide. And finally, what he ruled, the plaintiffs have failed to establish grounds for judicial dissolution of High Country 2. So basically, that part has been ruled on. Now, I really don't think we're all done because there'll be appeals. And what the plaintiffs are looking for, I do not believe, is many of the things where the suits, I think, have other goals. So, yeah, there'll be more to do. But at the moment, it's been ruled, as our lawyer said, this is pretty much totally a win in our favor. Okay? And that's been the major effort from the legal standpoint. We have not done a lot of other, we don't have any other active court cases except trying to collect an old judgment from 5 or 6 years ago. We need to get more active in pursuing past due assessments, but I've not done a lot this year because we spent a lot of time on this one.
What was the goal of the plaintiff in that case to dissolve the HOA in order to sell property or raise property values for that specifically?
My opinion as a person, as an individual, and I'm not reflecting board opinion of this, I think their goal is to get rid of the HOA so they can subdivide their land into smaller lots so they can build more houses. Officials in Harriman City have told us that that's the plan. But it's nothing that the individual has published or stated as his goal.
And that property is what?
One of the plaintiffs, one of the driving forces behind it, has land that's contiguous with Harriman. So what Harriman officials told us is he's been in to talk with them and say, I'd like to annex into Harriman. I need the HOA to be gone, so the lot sizes can be different. I want to run sewer out from Harriman. And that was his plan for his land. Other questions? Cool.
Hi, I'm Mike Keane.
compared to some of these other things, this may seem rather trivial. But the fact is that some people sometimes, it is an important issue. We tend to be a collection of individualistic sorts out here, and sometimes we get some real resentment, over this concept of having some rules about, building, and, the fact that every time you grade or you want to put up a fence or put up a building, you're supposed to come clear things with us. All right, and that's one of the reasons that I like to emphasize that we're here to try to keep you out of trouble. Okay, that's the way I kind of phrase it to people. So the thing is, when I look at an example from this past year, we ratcheted up the pressure a little bit on a few chronic problem areas, and I think in particular one, let's call it a visual light case, okay, that was resolved, was cleared up. It's important for people to understand this is not a question of just making up and enforcing rules for the sake of having rules, okay? They're not just being, officious busybodies. This is about the person on the other side of the road that's been trying to sell the property, okay? And, when I talked to an old friend who's a real senior real estate guy, called banker, and, Lynn said, situations like this, he says, can cost somebody 50 grand. Okay, because of the impact it has on property value. Now, I like to think that, what I do is my own business, but, if my neighbor Fred was trying to sell his place, and I was doing something that was going to cause that kind of economic damage to him, I just became Fred's business. Okay? And that's why we're here, effectively. Right? So, I think really the most important things are to bear in mind that we are really here to try to keep you, out of trouble, with not just the association, but your neighbors, and perhaps most importantly, the county. We can't anticipate everything. Kevin, came to me with that, proposal about fencing, and if he had come in to say that, in area D that he wanted to put in white picket fencing, I would have told him, I said, you need to rethink that proposition, because the county was never going to buy off of that up there. Okay, but with his design, something very aesthetically pleasing, would blend into the countryside, I honestly didn't think there was going to be a problem. Coming back with the limited height was a bit of a surprise to us, but we do our best. We're trying to prep things and make sure that it goes well for you. And I will say, we've got some left, but I think we've still got some people here that are brand new in the last year, right? Would you stand for a second? Anybody that's just acquired their property since the last year? All right, we should have a big hand for these folks. All right, I didn't know them during the break. One thing, a real shout out, we're trying really hard to make contact with everyone when they first come in. So we can talk to them about, sort of the lay of the land and make sure they're well versed in that clause and, working with us and so forth. And these people, over this last year, it's been terrific. Really great response and a lot of messages, a lot of inquiries, a lot of concern about trying to get on the good side with everybody and make sure that things are square, and really appreciate that. If we can just maintain that sort of attitude and effort of neighborliness going forward, we will eventually get to a point where there are no enforcement issues, and believe me, I would love to have that day, and we can. And I just, one other example, I had one person that is new in the area, but not here today, but called me just last week and asked about parking his trailer on his property by his house. And I said, yeah, there's no issue with that, but I said, have you met your neighbor, down the hill yet? He said, no. I said, all right, well, I said, you're talking about, you're getting kind of close to the property line there, where's the good spot for you to park. But this is a great excuse for you to go down and knock and say hello and introduce yourself and get acquainted. Okay? And because, taking that kind of a proactive approach is one of the best things that we can all do. All right? To avoid me getting a phone call, from somebody that's really irritated down the road. All right? And remember, that, if something really, does seem to be a problem with someone, let's try to be open-minded about compromises and different approaches. All right? Sure, asking somebody to move there forever or whatever, is one way of dealing with something. But the real issue, in these cases is generally not that it's about a rule. It's about, I don't like the way you messed up my view. All right? Well, think about that for a second. That means that actually something like a camo tarp is also a potential solution. It means that planting a string of trees is a potential solution. More than one way to skin a cat. And a good compromise is one where everybody goes away reasonably happy. Nobody's completely happy. And we've done that ourselves. Right? So there are some problem, issues that we're still working on. We've had some movement in this last year. But I'm hoping that by taking this kind of a really proactive approach to people and really encouraging people to come in and see us. And by the way, if you're planning to sell, that's a good time to talk to us too. Okay, because just like not long ago, I got the message from someone from out of state who was looking at buying a property. And they said, we just want to check with you and make sure that everything's clean, with the HCEII. And so that's fine. We get that all the time. We don't get it from everyone. We do get it. And so what I did was to go ahead and check the records, drive up to the property, walk it, and get back to them and say, no, everything's in compliance. It's clear. All right? They went ahead and made the offer and bought the place. All right? But anybody that's got any sense is going to make that call, actually. And if the word comes back that you're not in compliance, that could cost you a sale. Or could give you, an offer that says, except we want $20,000 off to deal with all the junk in the buildings and so forth that aren't in compliance. And so, sooner or later, everything gets dealt with. And, let's just try to keep it as friendly and neighborly and deal with it sooner rather than later. Okay? So, any questions about, an ACC business at this point? I'll talk to anyone individually about particular things happening anytime. Yes.
Mike, I have a question for you. You said buildings are junk.
Yeah.
It's not in compliance with the ACC. Do you personally drive around checking for things at all, or does anyone do that, or is it based strictly on complaints?
Basically, the group that the three of us that complies the ACC at this point, pretty much if there's something that is visible to us, okay, just doing about our daily business, then we may personally inquire, okay, but otherwise, I don't live in Area D and I never go up there unless, just like in this case, I was asked to go and investigate something, and I did. So basically, we rely on, the neighbors, essentially, to email or call and say, hey, listen, got something here I'd like to take a look at. But really, ideally, right, the first step is talking with people amongst yourselves. Okay, and you're having an issue or you're not comfortable with that, then come to us. Something we can even be, if there's something really, what it comes down to is there isn't really a rules infraction, but it's just sort of people having issues. We'll probably send in Kevin as a mediator. He's real calm and even tempered, and he doesn't get sort of impatient and snarky like me. And then see if he can help iron things out. Anyone else? Okay. I'm sure who's that? Oh, we have elections.
We're going to start the elections now. Tom's going to handle that. The one thing we really need are area coordinators, and this would be a great job for some of the new people.
Wait, why is it your job?
Explain what that job is, though.
The area coordinator is somebody who, it's a lot of miscellaneous things, like if we need to contact people in the different areas. I guess that's been mainly.
Is that different than this block captain sign-up sheet?
Yeah, that's different.
Because that's kind of what some of the things are listed on there.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Yeah, same type of thing. But you could do both.
Okay, we have two positions on the board that are up for re-election this year. Jeremy Honeycutt, as you heard this afternoon, this is his last year on the board. We have one nominee on the ballot right now, Jose Galvin. Would you please stand and say a little bit about yourself?
I'm sorry, my voice is trailing off. I don't have any glasses on.
Why don't you come up here, Jose, and use the microphone?
Just start over.
You need to get used to standing in front of public audiences. It's part of the qualification.
My name's Jose Galvin. I've lived up in High Country now for about 17 years. We moved up here in 1995. I have my wife and my two children. My daughter's 16, my son is 11. And I've seen a lot of changes up here. A lot of the meetings I used to have used to start off with fights and cops used to show up. So I used to remember a lot of those. So I try to stay away from a lot of this stuff. But I figure it's about my time and my turn to help out the association and put forth some effort. It's been challenging living up here at Bass. I've heard this gentleman here say many times, it's not cheap to live up here. It's not. You have to really want to be up here and you have to want to help out and do what you need. So I think we are a greenbelt community, and I think that's the thing that keeps us all kind of pulled together. We all have animals. We all have a vested interest in making sure that this is the area that stays the way that we want it to be. So I am a mechanical engineer by trade. That's what I do. I design buildings. I design mechanical systems for buildings. I know about working components, engineering, things like that. I have a cattle ranch. I run sheep and I run cattle. That's where I came from. Sorry, I was late to the meeting, but I was late. So my fences are down. I've got some cattle that are kind of heavy in their bones right now. So I'm available to talk to anybody if you'd like. I know a lot of the issues, a lot of the people up here. We all tend to keep to ourselves quite a bit, and I kind of do that myself. And a lot of that is just because of travel, and I am on the road a lot, and I do obviously quite a lot of hands. So I'll do what I can for you guys, and if you have any questions or concerns, or want to talk a little bit more about it, no problem. If you want to have a meeting.
We have one other position open up on the board, and we're getting a comment here. MJ, if you'll say a few words.
Hi, I'm not going to get up this time. My name is Mary Jane Pennington. I've been on the board for 3 years. I'm a pediatrician at Granger Medical. We have 3 kids, and our youngest is actually going after her mechanical engineering degree in college. So, and now that we're empty nesters, we have 3 dogs. So I guess there's something balancing there. I'm not sure what else to say. Obviously, if you have any questions or issues, our contact information is on the website, so there are phone numbers there to reach us. There's also email addresses, and of course, we always try to respond when we have member issues or members raise concerns.
All right, at this time, I'd like to open the floor up. Do we have any nominations from the floor for any of these positions?
I'll nominate myself for Area 8 Coordinator.
Okay, I'm going to go around every area here just a minute for the area coordinators. But for these 4 positions, do we have any nominations from the floor? We have no nominations from the floor. I'll go ahead and close these nominations for voting. Hopefully, you can put your ballots in the ballot box. The other 2 positions we have open on the board this year are for the Treasury. Ms. Shirley Brown, she couldn't be here today. Just a few words about Shirley. She's lived up here for about 12 years. Many people know her. She would like to be the treasurer. And then we also like to vote on a new secretary. Do we have any nominations for secretary? So we always take Jack. Think you're stuck, Jack. We have any nominations to be the treasurer, other than Shirley Brown? Secretary. Now I'd like to do the area coordinators. Area coordinator for Area A. Oh, ACC. We have any nominees for the ACC this year? Okay, Fred Johnson's up for election. I guess he's up for re-election this year. Do we have any nominees for the floor for the ACC? Come on, we need some support for the ACC. Anybody would like to be on the ACC? Going once, going twice? Can't talk anybody into it? Okay, how about, let's go to the area coordinators. Area A coordinator. We have one nomination. Yeah, we need 2 area coordinators for each area. So we get another nomination for Area A. It's not a very difficult, demanding job to be an area coordinator.
Don't hesitate, Ryan, come on.
That's fine. I assume it pays well.
Yeah.
Twice as
With
much
lots
this
of
year.
power and authority, that kind of thing.
All right. We have 2 nominees for Area A. Area B, any nominees for Area B?
Kristen Olsen.
Kristen Olsen. Kristen Olsen it is. She's not even here to vote. Area C, it'll be Terry Williams again. Do we have any other volunteers to be the area coordinator for Area C? Your name, sir?
Dave Joseph.
Dave?
Joseph.
Dave Joseph. Great. And then Area D, do we have any nominations for Area D?
Faith Wadley.
Faith Wadley. Do we have any other nominations to be an area coordinator?
What about Mrs. Wynn? Would you?
Mrs. Wynn?
Sure.
All right. Appreciate your support of the homeowners association. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and close the nominations. I think it's break time, unless we want to go on a member issue. Okay, we'll take a quick break.